Welcome everybody. This is another episode of The Top Shelf. This is episode 3 of season 2, and we are doing something a little bit different this episode. For anybody who has not seen it, or I should just be introducing these this way normally, but The Top Shelf is a recurring variety show, I suppose, in which every episode we play a different indie tabletop game, and then we have a discussion about it at the end, how it worked, how it felt, whether or not it's for you. But right now, at the beginning of February, we are kicking into Zine Month, which is kind of a replacement for Zine Quest, and we'll talk about that, for the indie tabletop community to make all kinds of cool shit, put it out towards you, and just, in general, have a good time and make sure that you have fun things to play. So, I am Mads, your host. We're going to go around the circle, just introduce everybody real quick. Since I'm dreadful at letting everybody do their own thing with that, and we have terrible breaks, I'm just going to introduce everybody individually. But Keegan, why don't you start us off?
Hey, I'm Keegan. You can find me online at KeeganEXE. I'm not funding anything. Let's keep going.
Max.
Yeah, I'm Max. I am funding Himbos of Myth and Metal, which is a game about very big bodies, big hearts, and very little brains.
Everything we love in TPK. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Brunt. I co-write Planar Compass. I'm currently funding Planar Compass issue 3, Time Priests of Ordo. And we are well on our way to layout now. So we're very excited.
Very good. And Tony?
My name is Tony Vicinda. I'm Chief Alchemist over at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard, and skincare alchemy in the Bardic College of Content Creation. Always excited to be here on TPK. Currently, man, what am I not funding? I was going to not fund anything for ZiMo, and that lasted 8 hours. I am funding Vamp Nugs, which Vamp Nugula and Friends, which is a set of Troika backgrounds based on fast food mascots. A lot of people on this stream have helped contribute to some of the ideas around that. So I'm in the deep lore around 70s, 80s, 90s, and more recent fast food mascot history. It's very real. It's very complex. There's a lot of drama that happens in it. Super excited. That's not even a serious project. I mean, I'm very excited to go back at ttrpg.link/vampnugs. But what you actually should go do is go to check out 13 Hunters, which is Nuclear Obelisk or Dom Leoti's 13 bounty hunter setting and system agnostic zine that's going to be launching this Tuesday on GameFound that we're helping co-publish and promote over the course of Zine Month. So that's the one that I'm really excited about, and that's going to launch on Tuesday.
Very, very cool. Tony, I understand you have, and we'll just start off questions, you have a little bit of a different relationship with Zine Month as far as just backing a game. If and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you're wrong. You have helped make, you've been working to help make games happen throughout the month.
Sure.
As well.
So I don't have any formal relationship with the Zine Month organization, which is largely coming out of Feral Indie Studios, which is Charles Ferguson Avery and Alex. Oh man, Alex, if I say your name wrong, I'm so sorry. Cogan, one of the two, Cogan. And they've done a phenomenal job. And then Nuclear Obelisk, Dom Leoty, and Sam Sorensen, who's Swig Boss over in the thing, have helped moderate that. So that's really the organizing team. They have given me far too much power within the server and within the community. And I am not abusing that at all yet. So I'm doing a lot to help host workshops and get a lot of the content out there to help creators get things started. My biggest contribution so far has been, I told people how to make press kits. And when I thought everybody wanted to make games, apparently everybody wants to make press kits. And so that's been just apparently transformational for people. And you can go to, I think, ttrpg.link/PK workshop to check out how to make a press kit.
No, I don't need one yet. Never mind. I'm not gonna go search the link.
Look, does Top Shelf have a solid press kit so you can tell other people about what it is? Because
God
It
damn
does
it,
not.
no, we do not.
the
No.
Nestling press kits for games with press kits for press inside of things that you would send other press to help them know that people who make games can send you press kits.
It's just a Matryoshka doll of press kits.
It is.
Goodness. Sarah, let's specific questions for you. So we're gonna kind of popcorn through questions real quick, and then hopefully it'll turn into conversation. I don't want this to be too formal, but Planar Compass issue 3. You've done 2 other issues up to this point. Have they all been funded? And is there anything different with this one that's because of Zine Month as opposed to the last ones? I know it's still on Kickstarter, is it not?
It's still on Kickstarter, and
Okay.
the only reason why it's still on Kickstarter is because we're one of the small-scale companies that didn't have the ability to pivot as quickly. So that's the thing that's really, I mean, we're grateful that Zine Month is happening because we were anticipating a Zine Quest, and the questing did not happen. The NFT situation made us quite disinterested in excitedly pursuing Kickstarter, but it's where we are right now. It's not where we intend to be next year.
Oh.
But our previous 2 Kickstarters, one for Dreamhaven, which is our issue 1 under the initial first name that got blown out of the water by somebody else using the term Dreamhaven, who rhymes with Hike Horgan. So the first issue was funded. The second issue was funded on Kickstarter, and they were both successful. Definitely more successful than we ever imagined they would be. This one currently is again like very excitedly successful.
Has it already funded completely? I haven't checked on it in a minute.
It has funded. We just got past all of the art goals being funded. So the next one up is layout. And we're really excited to be working with Sin. They have a really fantastic style. We change up the design each issue because it's the Astral Sea and things are different. They're
Yeah,
not the
so I
same.
mean, tell
They're
me.
always different.
I sort of am familiar with it, but for anybody who is unfamiliar, what is Planar Compass?
Planar Compass is an old school essentials supplement zine. It's a setting zine, and the first issue had psionics and a place to stay on the Astral Sea and maybe drop your players into to have a little fun and get to know the weirdness of the Sea of Souls and a place for you to just like mess around and get your feet wet. And then in issue 2, we turned the Astral Sea into a place to sail to other locations. So you can go into the Astral Sea and sail to find a portal, and you might exit that portal into a different plane, perhaps Ordo, the plane of law and time, which is what our third issue will be, but also perhaps you exit our plane, exit the Astral Sea into an entirely different zine setting that might be just anything, something system agnostic. I took some players to the Moth Island for that Fairlandy Studios came out with last year for Zine Quest.
Very nice. I like connecting material because I've had conversations last year about wanting to take my D&D players into Bats' Iron and Lies setting and just completely shift mechanics and force them to get through the Fey Realm without their use of their D20 and all of their modifiers and see how that fares. But no, that's super cool. I've looked at it for a while and I just have not picked it up. So the Kickstarter, you can get all 3 issues. You're reprinting the first 2 and the third, which is super good for anybody who has not picked up the first 2. You can get the whole collection. Now, Max, I'm going to use you as a segue here to
Eh.
talk about Kickstarter because I
Real,
understand.
real quick before that.
Yes.
Sarah, do you have a favorite endorsement by anybody else on your site? On your Kickstarter? Like, is there anybody who said like a really nice thing about your project?
There's a person who said a really nice thing about
What did
about
they
my
say?
project.
And, you know, is there anything like, you know, who are they?
Their name is Tony Vicinda. They were kind enough to say some incredibly nice things about our project.
Did they say something
In fact,
like their namesake, the team at Planar Compass seamlessly navigates the best of all worlds. BX design blends seamlessly with modern sensibilities and gorgeous layout. Each page you crest is a new space for adventure. Your table will be better for having their guides.
That really feels like too long of a pull quote. Did you
So-
try asking for something shorter?
We
I
didn't,
give
because-
long pull quotes, and I encourage people to chop them up as they need, because getting a short pull quote, like let's say Matthew Mercer said, wonderful and delightful about, I don't know, Yuzeba's bed and breakfast. That may not be something that's easy to then spread out if you need. But if I say gave the same game like 3 or 4 sentences that they could chop up however they need, it's whatever they want.
See, I
like
didn't
that,
want to chop it up
actually.
at all
Love that.
because, like, I have such low self-esteem that I drank in all of the compliments like nectar.
You've just fueled the next 4 issues of Planar Compass with that.
It's
with
entirely
that
possible.
one comment.
It's all I'm here for.
But not only that, we took the video because we're also listed as one of Tony's most anticipated scenes of ZiMo. So yes, we took the pull quotes, which was a suggestion from the we because the ZiMo Discord server is practically a mini convention of workshopping for TTRPG designers. Having the press kit, and which informed so much of our Kickstarter page, was nothing compared to, after completing our Kickstarter page, asking Tony, is there anything on here you think should be on here? He was like, pull quotes.
I'm sure, you know what? I'm sure making pull quotes for people and talking about their games won't come up the rest of this conversation. Let's
Nope.
go over to Max.
No, I'm going to segue to you actually, Tony.
Okay.
Is Max's game on your top 10?
I don't know. You have to talk to Max to find out. I honestly can't remember.
What about any
Oh,
pull quotes that you just
that
happen to
felt
have
like
off
a
the top of
dig.
your head?
Not a dig. It's not a dig.
It's fine,
Why
I
are we
guess.
still talking to me? That's my question.
I was trying to see if you hadn't, and then call you out and say for shame because I'm very interested in Max's game.
I know.
Max,
Ask Max.
please tell us about Himbos of Myth and Metal, because nothing screams TPK and some of the obnoxious things that we talk about on your Discord than a book about Himbos.
I think I was trying to think today about like how to summarize it a little bit, because I've been summarizing it in like marketing speak for a while, but like the actual game is, I feel, a little bit I'd like to think it's a little bit more than that. And I just play games that are like pure chaos. Like that is just, I am very chaotic as a person. I'm very chaotic as a GM. I'm very chaotic as a player. I just like randomness. I like who doesn't love a table, but like it's very chaotic. And part of this game was about wanting to combine my love of chaos and also wanting to make like a fantasy, like a high fantasy game that was like, that felt just like really inherently queer from the get-go. Like I'm a person who's just been super disappointed by a lot of big fantasy games and the way that they do that, and wanted to just be like, well, I'm a giant homo. I can make a giant homo fantasy game.
Good Lord, you fit in perfectly on the top shelf. It's just it's just chaos here.
I mean, that's the way. That's the best way. I also I say that as if I wasn't on a really great stream with Tony the other day where we played a semi-serious game, and I was like, no, this is really nice. We're playing a serious game.
It was heavy, but we were. I believe I said on stream, we were the fuck around, and Sean F. Smith was to find out. Like Sean was like diligently
Correct.
researching, and we were like getting fancy dressed with each other, and like going to church and crying together as a semi-deity and a person afflicted by dark spirits, and kind of like one of us seducing a woman and the other one forcing that same woman to be a worshiper of them. You can go back and watch it if you want to. It was a lot.
A good time. It's a good time. That was me being serious. P.S. That was as serious as I get in gameplay. Was playing fancy dress up.
That's perfect. I'll take it.
Yes.
So high fantasy, queer centric, and designed to be nothing but fun. And if I recall from what I have looked up in the amounts that I have, this is not Kickstarter that it's being funded through.
It is not. It is not Kickstarter.
Talk to me about that.
So I also planned. Himbos is a game that I've been like mentally working on for a while. It started with a really weird Reddit post that I read, and then it became this like, oh, I need it to make it the legally distinct version of a Himbos of M&M, different words in there. But and then I just like, I was planning on doing Zine Quest also. I did Zine Quest last year. It was my first time doing Zine Quest. It was my first like Kickstarter RPG, and it like the people were very supportive, and I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm going to do this again next year. And so had like prepared as early as like October, November, was like, I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to like ramp up and like do the couple months before and like get art and get it all together. And then Kickstarter made that announcement, and I was like, nah. And it's like, I'm lucky because I was able to pivot because it's me, right? It's me, it's my game. I can make that choice. I can do it quickly. I also have like my fair share of like internet, like platform literacy, and I can make art for things myself. Like I can do a lot of those things really quickly by myself, and I'm the only person making decisions, and I'm the only person that is looking for this. Like I don't have a bunch of people that I need to pay, so the project can scale to be smaller if it needed to scale to be smaller, which I think was a really important part of being able to pivot quickly, is I am the only one depending on this project.
Did it feel different between running a Kickstarter thing and doing this, as far as like the responsibility that you feel tied to as far as putting it out? Because Kickstarter feels very structured in what it requests of you, from my understanding, and this is very much on your own merit, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to take that as much of a blessing as I could. Like I was super bummed for a while, actually, because there is the part of it that is like, I have been super floored by the support that Himbos has been getting on itch since it launched like a week ago. I know what that would be if it was on Kickstarter, and it would probably be a lot more. And I like am aware, like I do think, and so there was a part of me that was like going into this project had this like, I am super bummed because I know that it's the choice I want to make, but I'm still very like sad about how much that will scale the project down, and how that means like even bringing in other people. And so I tried to like find little tidbits of like, what is the positive side of this? And part of the positive side is like, yeah, I don't have to be, the project can be whatever it needs to be. If it needs to be smaller, if it needs to be gayer, not that the like Kickstarter has a lot of content lines, but like they do have some content lines, and those are not things that I need to worry about. If I wanted to, you know, make one of the, so the goal that we're at right now is for me to give money to other people to make things that help support Himbos. And if I wanted to make that like an intimacy guide or something really flamboyantly sexual or like whatever, that's a thing that I can do on itch that I actually would have a harder time talking about through a platform like Kickstarter. And so decided to just like lean as heavily into like the themes as I wanted to, which didn't feel like, when I was thinking about Kickstarter, I was like, how do I make this successful is the like question that I really thought about on Kickstarter, in a way that I didn't feel like I needed to the second that choice was different.
Fair.
I want to build on that, because I think there's a couple things that Max did that are also really kind of just deserving of note. And you can't tell from Max's page whether or not they were one of my top 10 most anticipated projects. But if they were, I probably would have said something like, in classic Himbo fashion, let me speak from my heart, not my head. This is an amazing game by a good friend, made to be beautiful. If you like good games made by good friends that are beautiful, you should get it. By the way I arranged those commas in there, that means my good friend is beautiful, not just that the game is beautiful, by the way. I might have said something like that. And although, so Max, you can totally use any of the images, but you don't have to, that I posted also. You can absolutely just port stuff over. But you did a couple things really, really well. When you're itch funding, or when you're funding off of Kickstarter, you're not depending on discoverability, and you're not depending on the automatic kind of queuing and pinging of people that Kickstarter does. So that means you actually have to build more of a sustainable progression to the way that you're doing your project that I think a lot of people fail to understand. Max talked about the intention that went into this game, and that's been building. over the course of the last few months. Like there's been continued conversation, public work being done, sharing of those things. So that you launched, and you actually just chose to launch a couple of days, like a day or so in advance of everybody, which is smart. In all honesty, like everybody launching on day one makes it a lot harder for everybody to get the attention that they need. And you were mostly funded by the time everybody else is launching, which let you kind of step back and say, where do we want to go from here? But the other thing that you're doing that's tremendous, and it's came up a couple times this week in a couple different spheres, is the Himbos of Fund, which I think is so important to the potential longevity and growth of a game. Would you mind talking about that a little bit as one of the stretch goals you did?
Yeah, this is fun because I like should have written a tweet thread around this today, because like we crested a threshold today, and I just like took Saturday to relax. So I have been not doing this, and I should have, and now I have the opportunity to. But one of the things that I wanted to be really clear about was like, here is where the money that I need to get this printed, to get the like project where I want it to be. And then beyond that, what I really want to do is like give money to other people to work with the materials of it. And there's a couple folks that had expressed interest in making like Himbos of something and something else. So like one of them that has been mentioned, that is not like, this is not an announcement, but one of them has been mentioned, is like somebody was thinking about making a Himbos of Courage and Kindness and doing like a Care Bears era hack of it. And there's been a couple others, and I was like, if that's the thing that people want to do, is take this and put it into different genres, then I'd love to be able to like, even if it's throw them like $200, right? It's not like I'm not reasonably like funding another whole developed game, but if they're already kind of planning on doing that and want to take this and go there, then I would love it if this could help support some of that. I'm probably going to open it up to like supplementary materials also if people want to, but I really like the idea of like, hey, you want to take this? I would love to give you some money, even if that money is going just to like art or hiring an editor or doing something that maybe you hadn't like thought about just doing on your own.
But you're helping reinforce your own community. You're saying, here's my game. I'm so glad that you guys enjoy it. Like, let me help support, you know, the cluster of stuff that is coming out of this, which is super cool.
If you look at, like, it's a road to sustainability and growth, which is not like, doesn't mean it's always a marketing decision. Like, I don't think the choice to say, hey, I want to give you money to make things is a good investment when it comes to marketing. It's a good investment in community and sustainability, 100%. That like, look at Sarah's game is absolutely like connected to OSE, even though you can do a lot of things with it. You can use it for any 6-stat system and a lot of non-6-stat systems. The community around OSE certainly comes in to help support Planar Compass. The Mothership community comes in to help Mothership projects. The Troika community comes in to support Troika projects. Like those types of things do that, and it also helps those core systems and the publishers of those games grow as a result. I think one of the major reasons we can look at the $1.5 million that Mothership did in its Kickstarter, and then the subsequent even Hull Breach project just last month that was an anthology of those, of adventures for it, is because of the third-party community that's gathered up around that wants to create in that space and is excited to do so and is getting that kind of support. And early on, I think saying, I'm going to tangibly invest in you is a great way to strongly communicate that commitment.
Yeah, that's super neat. We're actually going to have, and I have yet to put it in the calendar somewhere, but we're actually going to have a conversation ideally with some third-party Mothership and try to dig into why that has such lasting power, because it is really incredible how last Zine Quest and even this Zine month, there are so many supplements that regularly come out for Mothership and why it is so interconnected. So yeah, being able to build that off the get-go is super cool. Now we've skated around it a little bit. Actually, before I get to that, when this hits YouTube, and I'm gonna try to drop it to YouTube as quickly as possible so that everybody can reference back to it and things. But I'm gonna try to get every link to everything we're talking about, games for Max and Sarah's Kickstarter and all of that, in the YouTube description as well. So if you miss them in this, feel free to go reference that later this week. But
I've been mostly helping out with that. I did not drop Himbos in there. I'm sorry, I'm slacking off.
Tony is incredible at all of that, and I appreciate the hell
Get it
out
together,
of you, Tony. Like I can't tell you that I don't have that multitasking capacity, but they will be up for permanent reference later as well. but we have been skirting around one thing for a short bit now, and I want to get into it. But we've talked about Kickstarter, and we've made the ew face, and then Max has talked about moving from Kickstarter and his ability to transition quickly, and a lot of this is predicated on news that came out. Was it the end of December, or was in December-ish?
Every week
It was December
this
8th,
year
approximately.
lasts so long.
Nice. Yeah, no, this pandemic is an eternity. One day is 7. But Keegan, in perfect detail, without any ums, likes, or filler words whatsoever, please tell me why the Kickstarter. What's going on with Kickstarter? Why do we dislike it? Why are we moving away? What's happening?
Oh, it's because you funded that NFT project on it. Did you want to talk about that? Is that what the
slander
stream's
me.
for?
Don't do that. I have funded no such things. Okay.
That's all I have
so,
for you.
God damn it, Keegan. Okay. Kickstarter announced that they are supporting. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but Kickstarter announced back in early December that they are supporting the NFT community and starting to get in on NFTs for anybody.
Do you want to hear
idea
the
is that
most
they're-
neutral reporting of this that I can possibly give you?
Please.
In early December, which to their credit is one of the lowest times for funding on the Kickstarter platform. And it is hard for me to give Kickstarter credit in these regards. They put out an announcement that they would be moving to a or investigating a blockchain-based set of technologies that they want to use to be able to decentralize, in their own words, what's happening in this course of crowdfunding, with some of the proposed concepts being allowing people to use the technology to create, and all of a sudden now the word is escaping my mind, a code base that would let you incorporate crowdfunding into any site you wanted to. Basically, not use Kickstarter, but benefit from all the technology that Kickstarter's built. That would be based on blockchain, that they were partnering with Cello to do it, CLEO, which is not an NFT, but a e-currency. Why can't I think of the words right now? I would never have problems with words, and I'm having a hard time with it. It's because I'm trying to be neutral, which is a cryptocurrency-based processing platform that uses cryptocurrency for that. They are proof of stake primarily, not proof of work. There are still some proof of work pieces in there, and they are carbon neutral, by which that means they buy carbon offsets, because nothing is truly carbon neutral, so that 10 to 20 years from now, maybe that tree will offset the carbon that was used for each of the transactions that they're doing, which kind of flies a little bit in the face of the public benefit concept that Kickstarter is based on, and caused a lot of concern for creators who are strongly anti-NFT. A lot of the statements about it being directly related to NFTs are hyperbolic, I would say, and are oftentimes triggered by our own resistance to that and knowing that blockchain technology is connected there. However, it certainly would allow things like people being able to mint their own NFTs, cryptocurrency becoming a common thing on the platform, potentially even people being able to fund goals towards that end, which has a number of problematic things. They promised that in January, there would be a white paper out explaining their stance in fuller detail. It's February.
I love that was the end of that sentence. Also, Tony, I love you. What would we do without you here, just describing everything? I request one more thing.
We'll get there, Cole. We'll get there. I
request one more thing from you, Tony, before we open this up to conversation. I would like you to explain that one more time, not neutral. Where are you sitting?
So in an ongoing series of events proving that it doesn't actually give a shit about creators, Kickstarter made an announcement in early December saying that contrary to their constant proposal that they are a public benefit company, which means for the good, that they support small and independent creators, announced that they were going to start using blockchain technology. The statement was to decentralize things. However, it really doesn't make any sense within that context. More than likely, what they're trying to do is bake a technology that they have some level of proprietary ownership into the foundation of the internet, in the same way that Facebook did with open graph technology, basically meaning that even if the platform itself, Kickstarter, goes belly up, they'll still consistently receive revenue, a ton of it, by having this integrated into the internet, because they'll take small portions of every transaction, ensuring their long-term viability. There's also high speculation that they might be doing it in order to circumvent certain privacy laws in Europe that are coming up, and certain requirements for them to be accountable as a company for the way that they operate within those same regions. Additionally to that, they're probably using it as a way to curry venture capitalism or venture capitalist support for another round of funding, because they do have a burn rate. They're not actually fully self-sustainable, and they're probably looking to grow still as a company. People don't realize that Kickstarter is a much smaller amount of people than they oftentimes assume it is as a company. It's not huge. There's not a huge staff that does a lot of this, that does a lot of the work that goes in. Even with that, all that said, it was, again, not the first time we've seen something like this. They imperiled the reality of the fundability of anybody who is currently on the platform operating in an independent space, potentially causing their projects to fail, because backer perception matters tremendously when going to use a platform. So if you were a small creator at that point in time who was part of an independent community in comics, games, or any other things, that people might not like that, who might want to support your project, you were having to deal with backer backlash for even being on the platform at that point in time. They, again, have consistently said, oh, we'll have more details, we'll have more details, we'll have more details. They have stonewalled, they have given canned responses. Even when they've given bigger canned responses, it's been non-answers. They promised answers by the end of January and have not provided them. For the RPG communities, this is all kind of specifically on the tail last year of the Perfect RPG scandal, where a employee basically gave themselves on air somewhere, it was 9th level, but leave the people at 9th level alone, on an interview thing, went ahead and gave himself a project we love while he was live on stream with people, and then in the middle of that used his project as part of Zine Quest as a way to kind of back end a known abuser and harasser into the community without telling any of the other contributors who are part of that. There has been no accountability for that. There's been no accountability for the announcement. The way that they've imperiled people, there have been no further details on the development. Maybe that means they're backing off of it. Maybe that means they don't give a shit and aren't actually going to provide answers, and they're hoping that we forget. Speaking of hoping we forget, that scandal that I mentioned also might play into the fact why 3 weeks before a lot of zine creators announced major projects on the platform, they announced that Zine Quest, an event that's brought in $1.2 million over the last couple of years annually in a down quarter of February, would be moved to August to coincide with Gen Con. Well, roughly, they announced this not through their platforms, but by retweeting Sam Sorensen, by a staff member retweeting Sam Sorensen's tweet saying, oh, don't worry, we've got a plan for this. Here's where Zine Quest is going. It doesn't particularly make sense. They have not explained any of that. Kickstarter's general mode of operation has been, when we get critique, we don't say anything. Someone may or may not get fired, but probably not. If they do, it'll probably be a resignation, and we'll probably give them a huge payout for being a shithead. And then we'll just move it far enough down the road that we hope people forget.
So the idea is that they moved Zine Quest because of the backlash of the tabletop community to hopefully delay everything long enough that people will still get in on Zine Quest down the road once everybody's forgotten.
Absolutely.
God damn it.
To notorious worldwide independent RPG month relating to Gen Con.
Relating to Gen Con, an event that people are going to have less disposable cash because of if they're going. That independent creators do not usually have access to because they do not have the budgets to exhibit. At best, they might have the budget to attend and play some open games of their system, creating relationships that will help with funding down the road. I can't help but encourage you to say, if you feel safe, if you feel comfortable, if the convention looks like it's going to be good, think about going to Gen Con as a way to promote your game, if that's what the situation the world is at. But as a funding accompaniment, unless Kickstarter is going to come in some sort of unknown mode of charity and actually create a platform via Gen Con to be able to better promote games, it's going to be a net loss overall for creators, or a net neutral, because at minimum, you're losing 5 days of advertising as people travel. Now, if you're smart, you can also geo-target a convention, which I do regularly for projects, in order to create with ads to create a target base. But that's not something that most creators know how to do, especially if their project goal is sub $1,000 and they're not spending any money on advertising, which is a lot of the people who are funding during Zine Quest.
this description is almost worth clipping in its own right, just so that people could see it in a concise format, because that was brilliant, and I appreciate it so much. So, backer backlash, problems along the community, because I am gonna use that to tangent because we've only got so much time on here. But Sarah, have you kind of got stuck with Kickstarter because of kind of what you've explained about things? I need, like, have you experienced that? Are you seeing differences in how your project is being backed because of the perception of Kickstarter right now?
I don't think so, honestly. I think that we've been very lucky because there was conversations on Twitter about, the fact that we're a small publishing house and we've made estimates and promises to the people that we're collaborating with that we can't move to a smaller platform. It's the people that we intended to pay. I can't live with myself knowing that I would never want to pay artists less than what they deserve. My artists are always going to be paid what they deserve. And I mean, that's the reason why we had it as stretch goals, because if we can't fund it all the way, I'd rather pay them what they are worth for a quarter of the art, find some public domain art, and pop that in. We had entire folders of public domain art. I'm never going to not pay an artist what they deserve. And so the fear of being having a drop in quality, and having the inability to be able to pay people what they're worth, and then having to possibly take people off of the project, we couldn't pivot within finding out in December.
Do you feel like
to now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a rough spot to be in. Do you feel like a lot of that perception and the reason that fear exists is because Planar Compass is already established with a certain level of quality and you're trying to maintain that?
I do feel like that there's a certain level. I mean, even though we have this weird thing going on where every issue is going to be different in different ways and going to take you different places, there is a certain level to the quality that I would truly want to maintain. But it's not something where backers have come back at us, because we have been in discussions on Twitter where we've talked about the fact that this is not the plan going forward. We are going to have to figure out a way to move forward and move away if Kickstarter doesn't get their act together, and clearly Kickstarter has no intention of getting their act together. We have high hopes for GameFound possibly next year, or whatever Zine Month looks like next year, but possible ways to move away from a platform that is harmful to artists.
Yeah, well, and I imagine
definitely what we want.
Yeah, and I imagine, because a lot of the community and some of the interviews that I did last year regarding Zine Quest and tabletop authors and things are planning, their Zine Quest project several months beforehand. With this hitting right at the beginning of December, how many people have a choice? You're kind of already stuck with, I have this snowball that I need to move forward with to make this happen and, make people be able to see this. That makes it harder, I can only imagine.
And for so many of us, this is a moonlighting gig.
I've
got a day job. My writing partner has a day job. We also are each have our own families. We've got one zine a year, one big damn zine a year that we can make as good as we can possibly make it is what we're currently capable of doing. So finding out that one big damn zine was going to be entirely up in the air, we were like, well, fuck, we're dug in. Kickstarter is going to have to be what it is. Yeah. But it wasn't just us. And knowing that it wasn't just us, and knowing that there was a community there that understood, really helped us feel okay about it. That helps us sleep at night.
I like having people be open on stream about a lot of this stuff, because there is a lot of emotion just involved in that, and the facial expressions even of this fucking sucks for everybody, and we're all trying to deal with it best we can. Max, where are you sitting with all of this? I mean, obviously you're out of Kickstarter. You had the opportunity to move. how did this strike you? What did it change for you? Were you looking at places other than itch to fund as well? Like how did that process work? Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, also, like, to be clear, it's also not my day job, and that does make it much like that is a upside for me, right? Like, it is, I have work currently. I don't have a day job. I'm a freelancer. I've been a freelancer forever, but I have work, and so I'm able to pivot a little bit different, and every once in a while I'm also able to like self-fund things, right? Like I can choose to like not buy another mechanical keyboard and pay for a print run or whatever. This is my personal weakness. If you follow me on Twitter, you know this is a weakness that I have. I did think about other places. I thought about like doing it myself. Like I thought about setting up a site myself. I thought about not funding it and just being like, I'm going to release this. I'm going to do pre-orders. I'm going to figure out like finishing it where I can, doing the same thing where like I find some royalty-free stock art and don't hire artists for the parts that aren't already paid for. Like the cover I had commissioned again back in October. So that was the thing where I was like, this is happening, but like I cannot put more in there because it was quick. I didn't really consider something like GameFound because I also don't know that I would have met the standards that they were looking for at that moment, where they like they wanted some like proof a little bit, or like some kind of, I don't know what the language is. I'm sure Tony explained it very good a number of times.
Proof
but like,
of viability for your project, because currently in their phase of testing they're in, testing for a project that doesn't succeed isn't what they should be focused on, right? And that can sound really small. Actually, I think like Max could have easily gotten on GameFound had timeline stuff been worked out, right? Like had we known this again, had Kickstarter decided to announce this other times, right? Given people the ability, the time they needed to make other plans if they wanted to, I think Max potentially could have gotten on there. I think Max could have easily done a 5K project on GameFound without much trouble with the tools that they have in place. I think that on Kickstarter, Max would have done between 5 and 10K on Himbos, which I don't think will happen via itch funding. The nice thing about itch funding is if it gets you where you need to go, like you can keep on doing the marketing, your game will be at the point you want it, or you can keep on growing it even if it doesn't hit that point. You don't have to just be like all or nothing about it. But the reach is totally different, and the triggers to back now and back at higher levels don't exist on itch the way that they do on other platforms.
Yeah, the thing that one of the questions that I wonder about, and this is a potentially controversial question, is I wonder how much Kickstarter's pivot and the community's choice to leave Kickstarter, which to be clear, I obviously think is the 100% correct choice. But so many people that I look at as like being kind of examples of what I think like a cool career, if people are looking to this to like be their full-time jam, so much of what I see as people who are in there have like built so much of that career on Kickstarter, right? So many of those people have already had their slight runaway successes on Kickstarter, already have those mailing lists, already have that stuff building, and so I think might have an easier time pivoting to a different platform, right? Whereas opposed to like this isn't even about me because I don't need it to be my full-time gig. Maybe it will be someday, but like for people that are just coming to this now, like this is only my second year of making RPGs, and for people who are doing it now, I think it's going to be way harder to actually like roll into a bigger project. And that's one of the things that I'm like kind of sad about, because that was the thing that Zine Quest offered, was like, this is like last year I made my first game and it was $2,000 and that was fun, and it was like, oh, I get to make this thing bigger than I want it to, and all of a sudden 100 some odd people care about the project I'm making that I don't know. Most of these people are people I don't know, you know, and that's the thing that it offered. And I think it'll be much harder for people to like claw into this space without something actually like facilitating that lack.
Yeah, this is something that I think the sort of indie space has to deal with here soon, is that a lot of creators who are pushing the, like, we have to get away from Kickstarter, we have to do things on our own, have, like, already to some degree made it. Like, I'm not saying there's not another path. I've been talking about it all day on Twitter.
And Twitter discourse is intense on this.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. It should be interesting to see sort of what rolls out of this.
Yeah, anybody who's, and a lot of those people are not full time. Like even the people who have made it are not full time. Like Jason, Cordova, who runs Gauntlet Publishing, is still a lawyer. That's their job. Now, they have a lot of flexibility over hours, and that's what you see a lot of times with people who are doing both. But it takes a lot to get to games being your full-time job in a way that
100%.
it can be this year and next year. Or it takes unique circumstances. Like I'm not full-time. I should probably spend less time doing plus one EXP stuff because it's not what pays my bills. But I mean, I absolutely love it, but it is like when I talk about it or when Keegan talks about it or when people who have had enough success to be like, this gives us freedom to make a choice. Like we haven't announced a lot about this yet, but like we're going to be, we created a little mutual aid fund, Keegan, me, and some other people, to be able to say to smaller creators who don't have that pathway, we want to give you that. Chatbook Co-op, right, is doing some really cool stuff. But those are all creators who have made it to a certain degree. Like they have a sustainable structure that allows them to do it. Some of them it's their full-time jobs. Some of them it's their part-time jobs. Some of them are trying to make that transition right now. But they have the ability to say, we want to print stuff and we want to do this. Even Exalted Funeral, which is a huge company, just hired, I believe its third full-time staff member. And they could have done that years ago, but they're just making that choice now because they wanted to make sure things were sustainable. So they hired somebody who has spent the last number of years making things sustainable for them to come on and just keep on doing that work. And so it takes a lot, but it takes all of us not just looking to how we move forward, but turning around to other creators, especially smaller creators or new creators, and not saying, how dare you want to talk about System Matters, but saying, hey, what is it going to take for you to get your first game up on itch, and how can I help you?
Well,
Yeah, what does sustainability look like beyond just your project is,
right.
I think, a thing more people need to focus on.
A thing I think is interesting is that, like, from a Canadian context, so I have been thinking about this a bit, right? And I do a lot, I work a lot with an organization called DMG. It used to be based out of Toronto, now it's kind of a little bit pandemic location. What does location matter? But like we ran a jam last year that was for people to make supplements, and then we compiled those supplements into a zine, and it was for some people who had never made anything before. But like Canada has arts funding, right? And we can put arts funding towards making RPGs. So we now, like with DMG, and we haven't like announced a bunch of it, but like we got funding for this year to do something similar. So that project actually means that people involved can actually like start to get paid in certain ways. And I think that like part of this conversation is thinking not just about like how we've all commercialized this, and because the conversation is super US centric for the most part, right? Because if we're talking about Kickstarter, then we're talking about, I remember being in Canada when Kickstarter started and being like, I can't buy anything because there's literally no any way to pay. And I know that that's not the case anymore, but like it excludes a whole bunch of the world and has been more of the world at smaller at different periods in its history. And so like there are a multitude of solutions to this conversation that I like think all need to be in conversation with one another. Like I really want to, this is a thing that I've been thinking about a lot, but like I really want to look into how I can find more funding through like Canadian government stuff and make that also part of how like a small something like Chapbook, because Chapbook's awesome, but like how do we make small presses? Well, part of the ways we do that in Canada is find arts funding. I don't think there's comparable things in the States is what I hear often, but
Not that I'm familiar with. No.
Well, here's the thing: there is, but it's way more like, speaking as a parent who has an academic and a ton of friends in the art scene, it's insulated in a way that it's not public good stuff. It's on the edge of private equity and secured weird venture capitalism a lot of the time. That's not exclusively, but there's a lot of that in the US's entire way of thinking that infects the art scene in the same way.
I'm going to use this as kind of our final wrap question because I would love to have a conversation about it, but also because it very much transitions from what we were just talking about. For someone, and I'm going to directly out me as the example here, like I am actively working on finally putting out a book this year, as opposed to a couple like pamphlet RPGs basically. And I want to make it physical. I want to make it good. You know, I would like to be able to ideally pay people to fill in the gaps where I don't have the skill. I have never done so before, and with the Kickstarter thing going on, like it's not something I would like to even have in the equation. What kind of advice would you put forward to somebody who's trying to make a first game and put it out there in kind of the community that you guys have all been discussing. Like, where does somebody start now after Kickstarter has just fucked themselves and the community as a whole?
I'll answer that, but Mads, I do need you to roll 2d12 and a d6 also too. Just tell me the highest result you get across the board.
Okay.
The biggest thing I think is that the assumptive reality that we should be able to hop on Kickstarter, fund a game, and start doing this has actually probably been a flawed one. We kind of need to check ourselves for all kind of buying into that. And that's not to say don't dream, right? But understanding that digital might be the future for in a lot of ways. Understanding that it's good. Like somebody hopped in the ZiMo server and was like, I want to start as a designer. I've been a GM. I want to homebrew, but I don't know where. It's like, pick a system that sounds good to you. Hack something small in that system, like a system that has an open license. Hack something small. And they're like, I just don't know which one to pick. So here's a bunch of them. I was like, but I also have one. If you want to hack something for Through the Void or Down We Go, like I will have it laid out. Like if you complete it, I'll have it laid out for you. I'll do it. There's a thing coming up. It'll be yours. You'll own it. I'll help you set up your first itch page. Like we'll invest time and energy into you in order to make that happen.
I rolled a 7.
Oh, that's too bad because I rolled an 11. And I don't know if you know this, but in the second half of this show, we have 2 creators on who have a game called 9 Lives to Valhalla. And you may not have known this, but we're playing 9 Lives to Valhalla rule on both streams tonight, which means that I am now the host of the next segment. You have to create a new character and try to challenge me back if you want to become host again. Because I rolled an 11 because I had Freya's blessing because I was one of the chariot pullers of Freya. And so you can stick around. I'd love to have you. You can become a raven on my shoulder if you want to.
Okay, yeah, I
or you can create a new character. I did realize halfway through this stream that meant I was going to have to stick around, which was not my original plan. I was like, haha, it'll be really funny. We'll kill Mads halfway through. I have trapped myself now.
You have trapped yourself.
By becoming host.
Yep.
But you are going to need to move us around on the things also, too.
Yes, and I will take care of that.
Okay. You can try to challenge me back to get your spot back.
I mean...
But as of right now, you are dead.
But as of right now, you are dead until you decide to become a raven or to create a new character and go adventuring.
Fair enough.
This is the only time I've ever wished somebody could get Zoom bombed. I just want somebody to jump in and just kill Tony. Somebody from the community to just jump in and challenge Tony.
Well, what you don't know is I've actually swatted Tony. He's going to be here in like 2 minutes.
They're gonna knock down my door here. Philadelphia SWAT doesn't mess around, so it's gonna y'all are gonna watch.
No, you're dead.
Happen on the stream.
You're dead.
Anybody in the next stream can challenge me for this spot if they want to.
Yeah, well,
I'm just saying.
Tony, your host, please explain what is happening as we go into intermission here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, so just for a second, we're going to take a short intermission while we rearrange some things. All of our wonderful guests here are going to step out, except for me, Keegan, as the handler of Mads, who is also going to be here for the second segment in some way, shape, or form. Are gonna do, and then we're gonna have some new folks come in at the end of that break, and we'll kick back live again in just a few moments. If that seems really smooth, I don't actually know what the fucking plan is. I'm just making it up as I go along, which is what happens when you kill the GM in a game. Which 9 Lives of Valhalla lets you do. Go to ttrpg.link/9livesks to check out 9 Lives to Valhalla. But stick around if you want to hear more from those creators. Some of the great conversations we've been having. Before we do that, though, I'd love to hear, Sarah, Max, any thoughts you have on creating that sustainability, and where can people find your amazing work at before we make that transition?
I think that the sustainability of the community is really the way to go. You know, the way that you can get into it is to reach out to creators. We've printed Moon Elves, which was this incredibly wild socialist Elves on the Moon zine that we got in contact with a creator that we really liked their PDF, and we were like, why aren't you printing this? And can we print it? And if you get in touch with creators in the community, then that kind of a thing can happen. So the other thing that I was going to say was who I am and where you can find my stuff. And I had to say that out loud to get my brain to reset. But yeah, I'm Sarah Brunt, and I co-write Planar Compass, and we're currently kickstarting Planner Compass issue 3, Time Priest of Ordo, which Tony dropped a link, and it is in the Twitch chat. And I can also be found on Twitter at Sarah Eliza Brunt or at Planner Compass.
Awesome.
It's you.
I know. I was like, "Whoa, this is good." I actually would mirror a lot of what Tony said. So I teach game design, and we start by making RPGs, and then we make digital prototypes. I'm lucky because my day job is video games, so there's a lot of overlap. But we actually start by making RPGs, and the thing that I do is give students a list of a bunch of different SRDs and say, pick one and make something out of it and put it up on itch and make sure it's in some kind of layout. And we do that in like 3 weeks. And it is totally it is a totally feasible thing. And what it does is means you do already have a community, right? That whole conversation about how Mothership has been really good at sustaining their community. I would say find a smaller one just because I think that's fun. I think it's fun to say don't go Mothership or Troika or any of the bigger ones. Go Down We Go or any of the smaller ones and help those communities happen.
Lumen.
But take
Lumen's great.
all that.
Lumen's
make it a
great
thing.
You can find more information about that for Himbos specifically over on the project page, which I'll drop a link to in the chat also.
Yeah. I'm Max. I'm funding Himbos of Myth and Metal. It is a weird high fantasy game full of camp and giant bodies and small brains.
Awesome. Thank y'all both so much for being here. It's meant so much to me, and I know the team here at TPK and Top Shelf. We're gonna refill our drinks, straighten up our ties, and we'll be back shortly with another round of amazing guests. And we are back here on Top Shelf at TPK Roleplay. I am your host. I'm not Mads. My name is Tony Vicinda. I'm Chief Alchemist over at Plus One EXP. But in the first half of this stream, using 9 Lives to Valhalla rules, which we'll talk about a little bit in just 1 second, I killed the host and took their role. There's a roll-off mechanic for how that works. Mads is in the middle of creating a character to see if they can get their role back. But we are always excited here on TPK Top Shelf to sit down with some of the fanciest people in the indie RPG scene, talk about the games that they're making, which is actually totally not true because they don't ever do that on on Top Shelf. But I do it a lot over on my channel, but that's not what we're here for. They do feature a lot of amazing indie RPGs, and so we're going to talk to some of the people who make those. Let's go ahead and meet some of those phenomenal people. Let's start out with right down below us, to my left, my right. We've got the 2 creators of Gym Room Games. Phenomenally. You wouldn't even know that they're in the same room if you didn't know they were in the same room if I hadn't said anything. Let's start with the goddess of the loom, Kali. Kali, tell people who you are and what you do. Tell us a little bit about your ZiMo project and where they can find you online.
Well, I'll try to leave something for Dan to say, but I'm Kali Laurie, half of Gem Room Games, and right now we are kickstarting our ZiMo project, 9 Lives to Valhalla, which has resulted in the death of Mads. Sorry, Mads.
We'll see you soon.
And it's going really well, and we've got a lot to say about it tonight. And very briefly, you can find both of us and all of our stuff at gemroomgames.com. And then I'll let Dan jump in.
So I'm Dan Phipps. I'm the other half of Gem Room Games. Like Holly said, we're very excited to be part of Zine Month this year for the first ever. You might know our work. We did High Magic Low Lives, and we did Duckborg, the to my knowledge only duck-themed. No, wait, that's not true. There were other duck-themed Morkborg supplements, but ours was the only one set in Calisota.
Ours was the only legally distinct ducks.
It was
Legally distinct, so important.
It was a legally distinct Morkborg setting in dim Calisota. We right now we're working on getting through the Green Realm, and also we make hexes and dungeons and things, and
give them away too.
and give them to you, and we want you to have them.
That's awesome. I dropped a link to y'all's itch over in the chat. I'm also going to drop a link directly to 9 Lives to Valhalla. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So 9 Lives Valhalla is a game about death metal Viking cats who are in the age of man is over. It is now the age of beasts, and there are those who would see a return to the leash. The leash cults run rampant across the land, trying to bring back the dark god human to be servile to. And one thing stands in their way, which is death and the bands of death metal Viking cats that they can pick up on their journey. And you are one of those death metal Viking cats. You're trying to fight your way into the drinking halls of Valhalla through glorious death. But the problem is you have 9 lives. So every time you die gloriously, you get brought up by Valkyrie up to the gates of Valhalla and sent right back with a blessing for your trouble, except now you're stronger. And now it's even harder to die a glorious death and find a worthy foe. I'm gonna pivot so you get to talk about it too.
Well, actually, I'm gonna low-key pivot because we've got some news about our campaign. The backstory is that we've done a lot better than we expected to. We had some unannounced stretch goals and figured maybe if we were lucky by like halfway through the campaign or so, we'd get a chance to announce them. But then we kind of blasted through funding and our only announced stretched goal the first morning. And while we were celebrating, we also blasted through what would have been our additional stretch goals. So instead of being cagey about setting new stretch goals for something that we've actually already reached, we're instead just releasing a 9 Lives to Valhalla adventure as both a digital and print edition. So it's 2 zines, 1 Kickstarter now. And we just updated our Kickstarter page about 5 minutes ago to make the second zine available.
Wow, we got a scoop.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Master
TTK announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I'd be upset, except for technically I broke that story. And so, awesome. I can't wait to hear more. And I also just want to ask, is there anywhere people can watch actual plays of either 9 Lives to Valhalla or a Duckborg?
Good news for you.
Funny you should mention it.
You can actually watch an actual play that is the root of the adventure we are releasing on +1. And that is also embedded on our Kickstarter page. So
Tony, do you have a link to +1 EXP? It'd be great if you could drop that in the chat.
Yeah, it's youtube.com/+1EXP. I'll make sure to drop that in the chat in just 1 second. But yeah, I think people should go to the web page, go to the Kickstarter page if they haven't yet. Look at the game,
is embedded.
Fund it, and they can just click through from there. That probably sounds even better. With that said, we have a whole other guest who's joined us right now too. Let's hear from Priz. Priz, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online, and tell us a little bit about, by the way, my number 1 most anticipated game in ZiMo, Barkeep on the Borderland.
Yeah, happy to. Unfortunately, I have no breaking news for you guys, but I
Just
can give
make
you old
something
news.
up.
Yeah, I'll make something up. I'll have to think about it. So I'm Prismatic Wasteland, W.F. Smith of Prismatic Wasteland. I'm mostly a blogger, though I occasionally dabble in adventures. And my upcoming adventure, which is also coming to Kickstarter, is Barkeep on the Borderlands, a pub crawl, point crawl adventure. And it should be going live, next Tuesday. And it's, we'll probably talk about it more, but I hope it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. And are there any nice quotes anybody has given you about your game so far?
Yeah, I saw this question you were asking in the last stream, and yeah, there are some nice quotes. And the same thing, you said, I like to give a long quote so they can cut it down, and we did that exact thing. Now it's a wonderful,
exactly that.
Yeah, wonderful quote.
Barkeep got 5 more followers. It would be at 700, which would be breaking news.
There we go. Let's get
the stream.
Let's make it happen. Go hop over there. I'm gonna grab the link and drop it in just 1 second. But I might have said something like, imagine the gathering of an amazing group of folks having a great time. Prismatic Wasteland has done more than create a game about it. They've gathered a thrilling roster of co-designers that makes this project a can't miss. That's why Barkeep is my number one most anticipated project of ZiMo 2022, which we did cut down a little bit, but that was the full unedited one.
And now you've said it, so now it's officially a quote. Yeah.
Now it's officially a quote, not
That's
just a
my
thing I
breaking
typed
news.
in. But no, I'm super excited about it. You've got an absolute amazing roster of people on this. And I've been excited by the art, the theme, everything you do. And like you said, you're mostly blog. I love the way you write, but you will put out adventures from time to time. You're one of the people I was going to potentially, if we got up even higher on Down We Go's campaign approach about doing something with us. And I'd still love to come around to that conversation at some point in time when you're less busy with your own project. But tell us a little bit about what Barkeep on the Borderland is, and tell us about some of the amazing people you've got partnering with you on it.
So first off, what is a pub crawl, point crawl? A pub crawl, for those who have never gone on one, is basically you go from bar to bar and have your own kind of adventures in real life. A point crawl adventure is just a way of kind of imagining that. I think of this adventure a lot as sort of like a dungeon crawl. The difference is that instead of corridors and rooms, you have alleyways and taverns, and so it's very much kind of a location-based adventure. You're navigating through all these different bars, and they're all super weird, which is kind of ties into a lot of the team that I have built are guest writers, and they're hopefully they're stretch goals, and we've not even launched, but we'll be writing their own bars, and so we have a lot of people on deck for that. Chris McDowell, Zedek Shu, Ava Islam, Ben Lawrence. The list truly goes on and on. I think we have 9 guest writers, and that's about half the team that we have for this campaign.
We've been forging a lot of canons together on stream this week. So if you didn't know this, Gym Room Games 9 Life to Valhalla is now canonically connected to Raycats, which is another project funding during ZiMo. I'd like to propose this. You can think about it, decide. We do have an event in Down We Go that is called the Infinite Pup Crawl, but I am very happy to rename that to make it canonically connected to Barkeep on the Borderlands. We can talk about the details of that later, but if you're down, I'm happy to canonically connect Barkeep on the Borderlands to the Down We Go system. But that's
sure,
up to
and
you.
I assume my pub crawl rules should be pretty easy to mesh into Down We Go. So
Yeah.
it's
I'm
designed to be
super
system
looking
neutral.
forward to
So
it. Look at that.
should work out.
Another canon forged across multiple streams during the course of the week. It's all coming together. No, I'm super excited. I just want to check in with any disembodied voices around us real quick. Mads, how's it going?
I think they're still dead.
Is still dead? Matt's ultimate revenge is like, no, I'm not going to make a character. I'm just dead now. You have to come back every week and do all the things. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about each of you. Like I said, you're each running on Kickstarter, and we had kind of some of the conversations we had in the first half of this have been happening over the last little bit. But I think I have 2 kind of questions, and let's start with what made you decide to participate in ZiMo, because they're both ZiMo projects, and how does that connect to some of the announcements Kickstarter's made? Since we went to Dan and Kali first, let's start with you, Priz. What kind of initially drew you into participating in ZiMo, and you're still operating on Kickstarter. How has some of their behavior or their announcements impacted that, if it has at all? Priz?
Oh, sorry. Was that for me?
Yeah.
So sorry. Could you go again? I was.
That's totally fine. So the question is, what made you decide to participate in ZiMo? And how have any of the announcements that Kickstarter has made over the last little bit impacted your campaign, if they have?
So this has been something that I've been planning basically since Zine Quest of last year. I was really into a lot of the just amazing projects. I think there were almost 400 things that came out last year from Zine Quest. So it was just a really cool, and that's kind of whenever I joined the blogging space. So it was my first experience of that energy. So I wanted to get in on it. I was like, I'm going to be on, this next Zine Quest, and I was super excited for it and started working for it. And then, Kickstarter, I think we're all aware, did a series of announcements. First in December, they said, hey, we're interested in that blockchain shit, which was was wonderful, and Twitter loved it, and everyone was excited. And then after that, they also announced that there was going to be not no Zine Quest, but it was going to be pushed 6 months. And luckily, we had an escape raft put together, which was ZiMo. And I think like a lot of people who have been planning something for a long period of time, we hopped aboard, and now we're all in the same ship together. And hopefully, it'll tread these troublesome waters.
Awesome. I'm really excited. Like, as much as I know it's hard for a lot of people, I actually really love that y'all are still running on Kickstarter. I think a lot of people who had those long-term plans, that made it for them. But I also do think in the moment, as much as if people don't want to support a Kickstarter like project, I get that. I think you're going to be successful. Both of you, I think they'll be able to get your project afterwards if they don't want to support Kickstarter directly for it. But I do think that by having ZiMo projects on Kickstarter, y'all are actually doing the really important work of helping draw attention to the fact that ZiMo is happening also too on your campaign pages. And I love seeing those types of things also too. It helps people know that they exist as well. So Dan, Callie, how about you? Either if one of you wants to jump on that grenade over the other one, feel free to. But tell us a little bit about what drew you to ZiMo specifically, and then what were some of your responses to the announcement for Kickstarter?
Yeah, I mean, in the before times, but like about 10 years ago, taking you back to November of 2021, we had talked about doing a big project and doing it around Zine Quest a couple of months earlier, and the part of that discussion was, when we had only ever done stuff through itch.io, we'd kind of done a sort of proto-itch funding for High Magic Low Lives to sort of see if there was enough interest to make an adventure, which took us 2 years to get around to doing, but that's neither here nor there. But we did do it, and it was way over scope. So it was time well spent. But and then an awful lot happened very quickly, and I think we were, we have been really, but I brought up that last bit to say one of the things we had talked about is, Kickstarter has always been mercurial. Like, just in watching people talk about their relations with Kickstarter, maybe your project gets approved, maybe it doesn't, maybe you're a project we love, maybe, you can't really know what's going to happen. And so diverse funding models had always been its own reward and always been part of the plan. But we were gonna start with a Kickstarter to really make a big bang out of 2022. And we decided to stick with Kickstarter, but we've been consistently hugely impressed with how much has come together, how quickly. The community, the workshops, just the website. I spent the last month building our website, and it's just for us and like our body of work. We don't have people emailing saying, hey, where's my project? Why isn't it on the website yet? And to see how much Feral Indie and the community has been able to pull together so quickly has been hugely impressive.
That was also really nice because here we were launching into our first official crowdfunding campaign and expecting Zine Quest and the sort of community around that to be there. So when all of a sudden it wasn't, it was so nice to realize that we didn't necessarily have to be sort of floating out there on our own as just a random crowdfunding project, that there was still community to be a part of, to encourage each other and support each other and promote each other. That was really reassuring going into this.
Love it. No, and it's been, like I said, it's been so exciting to see. Like, I'm a big Gym Rooms game fan. I'm a big Prismatic Wastelands fan. I'm so thrilled that both of you have seen such success. Like, I mean, Chris, I know you haven't launched yet, but you have 700 followers. Like, I am so excited to see what comes out of this and see, again, that team go into action, but see that. And then again, I love hearing y'all say yeah, we just busted through our wildest dreams on what we thought we were going to do. And having to kind of resettle, figure those things out. I think that something people are missing is a lot of times, when you have that plan, when small creators come in or first-time creators come in and they're able to say, like, here's the plan I've been putting in, here's how I've been doing the work, here's how we've been building our reputation, that can bear a lot of fruit. I'd love to come back and talk about that in just 1 second. Maybe one thing you feel like you've done that really helped contribute to the buildup of either the successful funding or overfunding of your campaign, and then the successful follower count for you, Priz, that's helped kind of contribute to that. But let's see, Mads has held up a piece of paper, has unmuted himself. Let's see if he's ready to drop his at least voice back into chat. I don't know.
Tony, I'm coming for you. I, J.K. the Bombay Cat, all black, follower of Unka, with my dark magics and blessings of the eye and mind, challenge you for my position as host. Roll your dice.
Okay, do you know what dice you're rolling?
I do. I read the rules.
Okay,
It took a minute.
So we can have a discussion real quick, and I'm gonna let the community decide. But let's just go to mechanically work through it. What weapon do you have mastery over?
Dark magics.
All right, and so I'm gonna depend on the person on my shoulder, the raven on my shoulder from our game of 9 Lives of Valhalla, Dan. Dan, am I correct in remembering that dark magic is cunning and brutality?
That sounds right.
Cunning and ferocity.
Cunning and ferocity.
Okay.
All right. So cunning and ferocity. What blessings did you select?
The blessing of the eye and mind, which grants me a higher die for cunning.
Excellent. Somebody has also given you advantage on this roll. Aaron motherfucking King has given you advantage on this roll, which is great.
No, to be clear, Aaron gave him a +2 on the check. Cole gave you advantage on it.
Cole gave you advantage because Cole's like, we cannot leave Tony in charge of this. It will become surely an outlet for Beard Balm and other indie games, which is just one of those things is already going to be true, but the Beard Balm is untenable. So you got +2 and advantage on this save, or on this check. So you're attacking death. So what your brutality, your ferocity dice is what?
My ferocity dice is a D12 and my cunning is a D8.
Okay, and let's as a group let's decide before rolls what type of enemy am I, because that matters.
The 4 choices that we can pick are giant, armored, tricky, and magic.
He's a
Okay.
tricky.
So he's
foe.
not armored.
He's a tricky. Foe.
I'm the
are.
opposite of armored. My defaults would be that I could be giant because I am very large. However, I think the mode in which this happened would lead me to say magic or tricky. Chat,
I
if
would
you
say
have an
tricky.
opinion, type it in. We're going to ignore anything you say, but we do want to know what you think. Anybody else want to weigh in? As the creators of this game, actually, here's the thing. Callie, as the goddess of the loom, who my character worshipped in the actual play, you get to decide what type of enemy am I.
Giant.
Giant. Okay, cool. So I'm a giant enemy, which means that I'm still going to roll 2d12. Does that give him any sort of advantage?
I think actually, I think brutality is for killing giants. It's really hard to keep all of
See, we
these
don't
straight when we
actually-
don't have them in front of us.
There is a
intentionally-
convenient chart
Yeah.
on the character sheet that tells you this.
No, it just
So,
looks
Mads,
weird
if
when
you
I
look at that
interact with
chart
the
on your
computer
character
'cause
sheet-
I'm all zoomed in.
Let's
See,
see.
we made the chart
Giant
so that people
foes.
don't have to memorize.
Yeah,
Yeah,
giant
you've got a
foes of
chart on that
brutality.
character sheet. Okay, there you go.
Yep. So I think an advantage for death here, or for
Okay. All right, so you're going to get to roll twice, Mads. You were
Right.
just looking for the highest number out
Then
of
I
your
got a
two rolls.
+2.
Correct.
that's really powerful in this game. We got to come up with some like stream interaction rules. Get
I
the,
love stream interaction rule.
Hey, Tony, what'd you roll?
I've got an 11 showing on one of my dice.
I'm gonna go make a new cat. I'll be back.
You can
No, you just come
you
back
take the
stronger.
same cat. Here's the deal. You're gonna fly up to your god or goddess. You're gonna kiss the gates of Valhalla, and they're gonna give you another blessing, with which you can come back, and then try to challenge me again. You're the same cat. You
All
got
right.
9 lives. You can attempt this. You've died once. You've died twice. You can
Got
attempt this 7 more
tries
times.
left.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go find another blessing now that I know what you are, because I was banking on you being a tricky enemy, stealing my goddamn
I thought so
show.
too.
God,
God, this is not at all what we had planned for this, and I'm so excited by the way it's worked out. Matt, just let us know when you've got that next one ready to go. We'll bring you back in. So back to it. What do y'all think has contributed to the build up and the success of your project? Like I said, you each had kind of been planning out longer. So what are some of the things that you think have been most helpful in building up to that? I'm going to go back to Prismatic again to start, and then Dan or Callie, whichever one of you or both of you want to talk. If you don't agree with each other, that's fine. But Priz, what's one of the things you did that you think really has helped contributed to the engagement around your project so far?
Starting out, it's really hard to get noticed because you'll have like 3 Twitter followers and you post your blogs and stuff, and really it requires somebody to notice and retweet. So I think that I was in Luka Rezic's Discord, and he was really helpful in kind of sharing some of my initial blogs, and I started gaining, followers and readers. And then since then, I've kind of made my own sort of community of a lot of other OSR bloggers, mostly people who are on the Bones of Contention review blog. All of us kind of chat and commiserate, and whenever Twitter and game design Twitter is being awful, we can kind of talk about it. And you need somebody to do that. And they've been really instrumental in kind of not only promoting my stuff, but also making my stuff better. Ava Islam is my editor on this and my last game, Big Rock Canyon Hexcrawl, and she's made my stuff infinitely more readable. So yeah, it's all due to community. And I think if you look at the most successful stuff going on in ZiMo, it all comes back to community. Whether it's Mothership or whether it's ZiMo, you need that team behind you.
Yeah, awesome. No, I think we see community be a huge element of this. And again, I think also like one of the things you really identified is it's not just a community, but you found a community specifically of like-minded people, similar interests, building out around core audiences. Y'all are working together, you're blogging together, you're each doing your own pieces, and then you're coming together. And you have kind of a centralized space that you operate around also too, which I think is so huge. And lots of times we're seeing that be a huge boon, is it's not just, hey, here's a community that I formed, but hey, here's a community of people who are doing similar work. And that's awesome. Callie, Dan, any thoughts for y'all? What's been tremendously successful for y'all in the build up?
Well, we've actually been doing a lot of things. There's definitely the community. We've got some really strong supporters who are there for us every single time with those retweets and likes and so on. But also we've just been doing whatever we could to get in front of people's eyes. We're giving away a whole dungeon every single month to anybody who signs up for our mailing list. We're putting out major previews of our game just to get it in front of people's eyes. We're doing press kits and sending out those press kits and press releases to anybody that we can reach out to. Everything that we could do to get it in front of people's eyes and get people excited about it, we've been trying to check every box we could.
We've also been the beneficiary of, having been in, like Discord has been a huge boon, just in the sense of being able to, participate in communities, not only like to grow our own, but also to sort of have opportunities to reach out to folks who have done this before, and obviously under different circumstances, but like to get advice and get your head on straight about, okay, this is how, like these are the things that are worth doing, that helped us sort of form a like, okay, well, we're gonna get if we're taking this to the next level, like this is the business stuff we need to have in order. This is the, and so we've had to improvise more than I think we'd wanted to, but also it's kind of given us like for this being our first time, we've really had a lot of we've gotten a lot of really good advice about, make sure your campaign has X, Y, and Z, make sure, you're not overdoing this and so on.
Granted, nobody advised us drop an adventure as a second zine like a week into your campaign, but
that is
here
the
we are.
opposite of what people recommended. That is, but here's the thing, it's gonna be so good though. So we're doing it.
Give you advice on getting big in Japan? That's a thing I'm coming to.
Yeah, let's talk about the international response to 9 Lives of Valhalla, because you guys got on some UK lists and some lists in Japanese and in Japan specifically. Tell us a little bit about those.
So I'm pretty sure what happened with Japan is I've got a knucklehead from small times named Doug, who is, we told the friends and family chat, like, hey, we're doing this thing, this is what we're doing with our library science degree. And one of my friends, Doug, had years and years ago moved to Japan and worked for, I think, Mitsubishi for a while, and still lives there now, and sort of just shot out this tweet, this retweet of like, hey, folks who are into TRPGs, like, here's something to check out. And then less than an hour later, we had a quote tweet all in Japanese that has since gotten
hundreds
tweets?
of likes and retweets and whole threads that we're clicking like Google Translate on every one, and there's some fantastic phrasings that I really wish we knew somebody who could actually translate for us, so that we would know if that's what was actually being said, or if that's just some crazy thing that Google Translate is popping out. But yeah, it's real fun to read nonetheless.
Right, I have no idea how this is going to pan out with the backer surveys, but right now our second biggest traffic referrer is from Japan. So we might need different fulfillment help than we thought.
That's awesome.
But we did learn a lesson about Kickstarter, which is we were very confident in our plan of charging for shipping after the campaign ended and closer to when we're actually sending things out, so that we could try to account for any
the Suez Canal,
things that might come up and change the cost of shipping unexpectedly. And the way that we set it up to do that means Kickstarter isn't taking note of what countries people are in for us. So it's all a big mystery where anybody is. So maybe we've got like one backer in Japan, maybe like half our backers are in Japan. We won't know until we get our backer surveys in. So that's an exciting wrinkle to all of this.
Awesome. I love it.
Things
are happening in the chat.
I have been hurt. Mads has abused privileges. I'd say very publicly to grant themselves a re-roll, and a number of other things have happened. But that's okay, because I would love to be free of this and actually turn it back over to Mads if they can defeat me, if they can pry it from my cold dead hands. My hope is that immediately afterwards, someone else challenges Mads for this. It's what needs to happen. But it will free me, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, Tony, you have disadvantage and a -2 on your roll.
Disadvantage and -2, and that +2 that I kept on trying to get in has not cooled down yet.
Nope.
So I think Mads is not letting it, in all honesty. But that said, all right, Mads, tell us what blessing you
So I now have the blessing of the cold flame as well, and since I'm already proficient in dark magics, I get an additional D6 to roll. So now I'm rolling with a D8, a D12, and a D6.
Awesome.
And I get to reroll.
Awesome. And I no longer get the extra dice that I would have normally had. Wait, are you still using dark magics?
I'm still using dark magics.
Oh, then yeah, so I do still get that rolls.
Now, Dan and or Callie, the reroll that I just granted myself, is that one die that I get to pick, or is that all of them?
It's funny. We didn't design this with GK chat in mind.
As host, what I am going to say is it's a dice pool game. You roll them all at the same time, even though they are distinctive dice. You can re-roll your entire pool.
Okay.
This is great. Disinviting the designer from the game. This is between you and Death.
The rules as written don't cover this concept. I'm just saying. Like, this is where rulings, not rules, matter. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Anyway,
and
roll those dice.
Priz, I also want to just publicly apologize. I sent you a friend request so we could drop you into the chat, but I don't know that you ever accepted it, and so you have been blindsided by this as much as Mads has. And I just want to publicly take a moment to apologize to you for this not being the stream you thought you were coming on.
No worries. I feel like I'm a viewer. I'm watching the game play out.
Roll your dice, Tony.
I have.
I got a perfect 12. Do better than that.
So did I. However, I have -2, which means that Matt has successfully killed me.
Matt, I saved you.
We were
You
so
owe
close
Keegan
to
your
both
life.
of you dying.
Do you have any final
Yeah,
words?
no, a tie on stream would have been incredible.
No, but I want you to narrate what it looks like as your cat kills me, and you become Death / the host again.
Yeah.
Like narrate for that to us in character.
Yeah, so with the little all-black Bombay cat, the little parlor panther that I am, is going to find his way to the side of your desk and utter some terrible incantations, and just render, just liquefy your internals as you collapse from your chair.
I love it. Hey, by the way, thanks for the raid DM Studios. Got
No,
16
he
viewers.
He doesn't have any. He's out. Get out of here. You're
We're so glad to have you. My name is Tony Vicinda. I've been your host for the middle portion of tonight's Top Shelf TBK. I relinquished the reins back over to Mads. He could theoretically just boot me, but please go back and check out all these amazing creators. Keep on having a great conversation. Mads, is it gonna screw you up if I drop
It
out
is,
of
and
the
that's
call?
the trap
Okay,
that you
so I'm
put
gonna stick
yourself
around then.
in.
I'm not
You're
gonna
stuck
screw
here.
you that way. But please also, if you get a chance, last shout out, I'd love to give, go check out Vamp Nugs or Vamp Nugula and Friends, which is a sort of troika backgrounds based on 70s, 80s, and 90s food mascots. But it's a dark, gritty reboot. So if you've ever wanted to know what Grimace looked like as a anti-hero dethroned prince, or what it's like to play as a vampire chicken nuggets with all the benefits and powers of a chicken nugget, go check that out at ttrpg.link/vampnugs. But more importantly, go check out 13 Hunters at ttrpg.link/13h. It's a phenomenal set of bounty hunter backgrounds that's system and setting agnostic. I'll drop links to both of those in the chat, but I'm going to shut up now and let Mads have his show back.
For anybody joining after intermission, I am Mads. I am your host, or was supposed to be your host. I was fully convinced that because this was an interview episode, it would have gone away chaos-free, and somehow they still managed to pull it off. But thank you, everybody, for joining and enjoying everything that the Top Shelf ends up becoming by the end of the episode. Good to meet everybody here. Priz, Dan, Callie. Wonderful to have you all on stream. I think we've talked a good bit about Kickstarter and kind of its influence over everything and where you guys are at with your campaigns. I wanted to pivot to something that we almost talked about at the before intermission. It was brought up briefly with Sarah, but I'm curious to know is I guess a question for both Priz and Gemroom. When it comes to, good lord, you've really thrown me off my game, Tony. Don't respond to that. You're dead, but you've thrown me off my game.
I'm not dead. Imagine me realizing that I'm going to have to now run an interview with no plan, which is really this is what they call backdoor bragging. Hey, folks, I did all of that, not having any idea what the hell the plan was. Check out twitch.tv/+1exp
Get outta
or
here.
Tony +1
Tony, get outta
and
here.
plus youtube.com/+1exp.
I don't know enough about Zoom to forcefully mute you, but no, I'm curious. Are you guys paying? You guys are working with other individuals to pay for layout, editing, art, anything of the sort, or is this everything yourselves for these projects?
For us, everything is ourselves. Dan, this time around, Dan wrote most of the words, and I've done the art and layout. And that's usually how we do it. We're sort of a Venn diagram of skills, overlapping here and there, but generally we keep everything in-house.
Very cool. Super interesting. I would love to do that myself, but I am but one man who knows not very many things, so I have to do something like that. But Priz, what about yourself?
So I'm actually not that dissimilar from Gemroom in that even though it's just one person here, we are also kind of a team of two. So my partner does layout and stuff for my work. And a lot of the stuff that whenever the Kickstarter launches, you'll see a bunch of neat use of graphics. All of that is her work. Editing, she proofreads some, but I do look to some outside people for editing just because I need it and it makes my stuff better. I think I had already mentioned Ava, but on this I'm also having Ty and Nick Whelan also kind of serving as editors. So I have like an entire editorial board for this upcoming project. That's definitely something that I'm not doing in-house just because it makes my writing better to have a couple sets of eyes on it.
That's fantastic. I was going to have a conversation about the recent Twitter discourse that showed up over the last 2 days about pay wages for writers specifically and things that come about of that, because I think the conversation's interesting, and I wanted to know if anything had shifted since the last conversation I had about Zine Quest back with my interview with Chris Bissett. But since that is not the case here, and I've been caught off guard, and we only have 15 minutes left, if you're interested, go check out Twitter. It's fun. Lots of good conversations about the fact that big corporations are messing with, are just not paying people properly, and that indie tabletop.
I mean, they mess with us pretty much.
Oh, regularly, on the regular. It's bad.
Yeah.
But I am curious because ZiMo is about more than just 4 creators here. I am personally super excited about anything. Barkeep on the Borderlands, every word in that makes me excited. The whole game just sounds delightful. And 9 Lives to Valhalla. Yeah. I mean, even the middle words, I use them all the time. They're great. But 9 Lives to Valhalla, after having just read the whole thing, is also fantastic and is absolutely worth checking out. I want to know from everybody still remaining, current ZiMo project you're all most excited for. Not Tony. He's out. Current ZiMo project that everybody's most excited for that's not in this space. I would love to get more eyes on more things.
I know I've actually been keeping a long-running list because we're trying to boost some people every week, and as such have been trying to keep track of all the different projects,
of which there are so many
that we think are cool, and it's hard because there are so many. So just let's see. I'm now looking. Oh my god. Well, okay.
I'll also grab the link from y'all's Twitter to drop in the chat for everybody who wants to see that.
We already talked, or you talked about himbos a lot already. We're pumped for that. And then Signal to Noise hasn't launched yet, but that one looks really interesting. It's asynchronous remote play through letter writing with sort of code making and decoding and feelings.
Yeah,
too.
It's gonna be real sad.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna really break your heart. Very excited to get hurt in the worst way on that one.
I do love sad games.
Mechborg by Roland B looks really, as a fan of plays on Morkborg, but also like it's got a great. If you remember that scene from Nausicaa where they see like all the huge robots from the past like walking through the, like it's got a great energy on that. You already talked to Planar Compass, so you know why we're excited for Planar Compass.
And you mentioned Ray Cats, which we are now canonically linked to.
Yeah.
So.
As a side note to Morkborg too, I absolutely love Duckborg. So I had to.
We got to come back around to that one. When we're done with cats, we'll cycle back through ducks. We'll do rats. It'll be
Run
great.
it on stream, coward.
Listen, I did. Oh,
I was talking to Mads, not you.
Sorry. My
Duckborg
baseline assumption was that I'm being accused of
I've been
cowardice.
trying to get Mads to get 9 lives on stream for weeks now.
Okay, we've just officially played 9 lives. Like that's the whole rule set is what we just went through. So
I mean that is kind of the whole rule set. But
That's fair.
there's a lot of cool stuff. I'm trying to remember. I know who.
I just closed our list.
I
so
know,
Dan
and
no longer
I
has
mostly
reference.
I mentioned Nuked because I'm obsessed with Fallout, and I'm annoyed that I don't remember who the author is. So I'm gonna look that up.
I like that you asked for one, and we're like, okay.
no,
here's
you're
a
good.
list of,
While you
like,
look up
8.
Nuked, because I am curious. Priz, what are you excited for?
I'm also not going to give you just one. I'm
No,
going to have
please.
to. I can limit it to three, which is real editing on my half. So one is Ben Lawrence is doing Downtime in Zion, which is being illustrated by Evelyn. And if you're not familiar, it's recently been censored by Twitter. So this is very exciting. The original cover had a little mole rat with some dangly bits on it, and Twitter flagged that as inappropriate, and they like locked down his account as like an inappropriate account. It's been a whole thing, but his project is going to be terrific. Lazy Lich is doing another Kickstarter this year, and it is Toxic Wood. I've seen a lot of the early art, and his art is, as always, just like phenomenal. And the third is a smaller one. Literally, it's called Small SMOL, and it's like very much like a classic kind of scoped for Zine Quest or Zine Month kind of thing, in that it's just one guy. He's doing all the writing, all the illustrating. I think it's already reached its goal, which was fairly small, but it looks really, really great. In the latest backer update, he did a little animated video as well. So I recommend looking at all three of those. The first two have not launched yet, but they both are going to launch with me on February 8th.
That's fantastic. No, and again,
Found the one I was looking
yes.
for. So if you go to nondairygiant.itch.io, you'll find Nuked. Also, if you haven't already backed Vamp Nugula, if we get to $500, Tony has to watch and react to whatever brand-eating ephemera we send his way live.
Oh,
and
please.
Oh my gosh.
I need to go update the page to add that back on.
Hey, you remember that Sizzler ad that's like 6 minutes long about how it's morning in America? Because I'm hoping Tony hasn't, because it's wild, and I want to see everything that does to his psyche.
Ooh, yep. No, I have to go back it now just to contribute to that. No, all of these are great, and the reason I bring it up is because ZiMo and Zine Month in general is like dozens and dozens and dozens of new games and all kinds of new content, and as much as I can bring a couple people on, there is so much. And if you check out, I believe it's zinemonth.com, there is it's a website that's just a massive list, and I highly recommend anybody watching to just go pull up that site when you have some time and just scroll through all the good content that's coming out, because it not only does it kind of tell you about the game, but it will also link you to where it's funding and how it is funding, so that because of the kind of separated nature of where we are at with Zine Month now, it's not all Kickstarter, and it's going to be all over the place. So that is a wonderful collaborative spot to find everything that you could possibly want as far as zines. We had another question that I want to circle back to.
I haven't listed my favorite zine yet. I'm going.
Well, I mean, you're just supposed to be my handler, apparently. But no, please, Keegan, go ahead.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to list a few. There's Fairyland coming out by Moon Magic, which is a systemless fairy setting, which is really fun.
Anywhere they can watch that played?
Yeah, we played that on Plus One EXP, and then the thing I'm most looking forward to is Aberrant Reflections, which you can also watch on Plus One EXP. I also played in it.
Also very excited for that one personally.
Which is just an incredible dungeon. Talking about it would give too much away. Go check it out. That's my piece.
No, appreciated. But what are you guys? What are plans post Zine Month? Anything in the work? Any teases?
Stuffing a lot of envelopes, we're hoping.
Stuffing envelopes, one thing that is a project that is underway right now that will continue to be underway. We're doing 2022, a year of hexes and settings, where every single month we're coming out with another very brief hex plus setting. We'd set out to have them be hex plus dungeons, and then instead made a church for the first one. So they're hex plus settings that we're making available every single month for as a paid product, but also giving them out to our mailing list. So we'll be doing that all year, and then we we have a lot of things.
Well, we've got that secret project we're not telling anybody about, where we're doing a second edition of High Magic Low Lives, but that's very
okay. But
we're play testing that one.
I did actually, when Dan started to say we're doing that secret project, I started to go, oh God, like which one is he about to say though?
No. Nobody knows about
High Magic
so
Low
don't
Lives
tell
too.
anyone that we're working on that, but we're
working on that. We're working on some more adventures that we actually will be sourcing art for if we can afford it. And and we're working on some. Well, we're working on some SRDs. We're working on.
We gotta
You guys
stop.
are busy.
They have a 3-year plan, and you really opened up.
Fair
a can
enough.
of worms
Yeah,
by
Paul,
asking
you
about
asked
it.
the wrong question.
Technically, right
Tell
now,
us about the
I try to have
Gantt
it-
chart.
I try to have it at like 5 years. There's the radio station game too.
Radio Free Any City. That one's probably a Fords in the Dark game set in a world where there's no internet and computers the size of buildings run everything. Don't worry about it.
We'll get there.
That one doesn't even have layout. Anyways,
That one should have layout.
Please,
that sounds great.
Please hand this to Priz.
Priz,
We won't
please.
stop.
We've got to shut them up somehow.
After Zine Month, I plan on making the zine. So I'm pretty busy with my day job, so I can only really juggle one ball at a time, which is not very impressive juggling. But I plan on basically spending all of 2022 finishing writing up my bars, working with the guest writers to write theirs, probably running a couple test sessions with the various guest writers and stuff, so we can get a feel for the world. And just tightening it up, making the best looking product I can make. That's my short-term goal.
No, that's
in the long term. I'm making Prismatic Wasteland, which is a post-apocalyptic system, and that'll be out in 2035. It'll be for now.
okay. Well, I'm excited for it nonetheless. Again, Wasteland stuff is enough for me to just immediately follow it. I think there are some creators who just like you find your niche and you stick in it, and then you'll find people who enjoy that niche. So I'll ask this directly to you as, I guess, a final question, because I do want to hear more from Priz, because I'm curious. But what is your kind of, I guess, timeline for creation of this? What do you anticipate along the way of writing a project? It's funded. You know it's going to happen. What do you do from there?
So my timeline, I have kind of a Google Sheets that my friend Ty has kind of laid out, and I have like day goals basically for the rest of the year. But essentially, I'm going to start writing my part. As it gets edited, the guest writers will start kind of writing theirs. That way, they have the 13 or so bars that I've written as kind of guidance. They can see the factions I put together. They see the procedures and the drinking rules. And as they write theirs over the course of the summer, we'll be editing my parts. In the fall, we'll be editing the guest writing stuff. We'll be commissioning art throughout the entire process. And then hopefully in October and November, we can focus on test prints and getting everything laid out. And then I'm hoping to have it in everybody's hands by December. That's my goal. So I'm trying to have this be kind of a single year project. And that's my goal, and I'm sticking to it.
No, I love it. And I appreciate having everybody on. I genuinely do. I feel like I want to do another design stream conversation about just the process of creating something, putting it through funding, and all of that. And I would love to get takes on those, because we just don't have the time for it in this episode. But ZiMo's big for the tabletop community. I wanted to get this out as quickly as possible because there's lots of information to cover. There's lots of things going on with the Kickstarter debacle that went on that Tony so beautifully outlined and described for us, and then we all got heated over and then had conversations while I was dead. It's a landscape that is shifting that we will have to keep seeing, keep looking at to see what happens for everybody and their paths, because I want the tabletop community to continue to grow, and it will inevitably, because we're all stubborn artists. But I thank you guys for being part of the stream. Let's go ahead and round out real quick, so I can keep on my own time clock, even though I was only here for like 20 minutes. I trust Tony and everything that he said prior. Well, let's go ahead and round out with some just outros. Just remind us where you're at, what you are working on specifically for this Zine month. Any final thoughts or anything of the sort, and then we'll get out of here. Let's start with, let's start with Keegan, because Keegan's been quiet this whole thing. He's just been orchestrating nonsense with Tony in the background.
I've been Keegan. I haven't been talking much. This has been fun. But you can find me at keeganexley.com. That's it for my outro.
Priz?
So what I'd like you to Google is Barkeep on the Borderland. It's coming to Kickstarter next week. If you'd like to find my other stuff, I've written a couple blogs on the rules and stuff at prismaticwasteland.com. And I'm always on Twitter, mostly being silent and kind of silently judging everyone else. So that's at Prismatic Wastes at Twitter.
Perfect. Thank you. And then Gem Room Games, whichever of you would like to outro, or you can, popcorn it back and forth. Your choice.
So all of our stuff is at gemroomgames.com, and we've got a landing page for Nine Lives Valhalla there that sort of talks about what that is and can take you to the Kickstarter.
We got to update that about the new adventure.
Yes, we do. Oh, and the press kits. Oh, what have we done to
But
ourselves?
also, Nine Lives to Valhalla is our official ZiMo project. The Wreck of the Murderous is now our second official ZiMo project, which you can find at the same Kickstarter. Or if you want to avoid Kickstarter, we'll be taking pre-orders as soon as the campaign ends.
Very good.
And yeah, everybody go feed Zine Month. Go tell your friends, tell everybody, because we need it next year too. So, this year we got to feed Zine Month so everybody can eat next year.
I know I'm not supposed to talk. With that said, we have not talked about them enough tonight. Go support specifically the zines that are absolutely phenomenal that Feral Indie Studios has put out. They are the ones who came in and did a lot of the organizing work behind Zine Month. They've got 3 great zines. I excluded them from any of my top 10 lists because they are the organizers. But I also excluded my own stuff from that list too. But they are 3 phenomenal zines that would have made that. They were some of my favorite projects last year of Zine Quest 3. So I'll drop those links in the chat also.
I would very much appreciate it. And thank you, Tony, for being a part of everything. I know you kind of gave your outro stuff as you died. I have been... I have been Mads, your host. I do interview stuff. We do conversations like this every once in a while. Traditionally, I am the games master and host for the Top Shelf, in which normally we'll play a full session of a game and then have conversations about the game afterwards, how it went, how it felt, whether or not it's for you. And as a final thought to this, because there's so many games coming out, if you are interested in seeing a game run, if you're a designer, if you want to see a game run on stream, or if you're somebody who's just interested in seeing an actual play of a game that you have a suggestion for, you are free to hit me up on Twitter at jkmadigan, or you can also send emails over to tpkroleplay@gmail.com. And they can always send stuff off to me. We'll get the designers on stream. We'll have some chats about it afterwards, a little bit more of an individualized interview, and then just have some shenanigans playing through the game itself. But thank you all again for sticking around, listening to all the good talks about ZiMo. Go support your favorite creators. Go support the people you don't know, because so many of them are still making cool stuff. And we will see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody. All right.